Coming up on today's Cowboys Report, 6 more roster moves being made. Some expected, some not so expected. We'll break them down for you. And the early practice squad signings. The Cowboys have nearly finalized their 2025 practice squad. One spot is open for now. We'll break that all down. Before we get into it, we are rapidly approaching 220,000 subs here on the Cowboys Report. Tons of videos. This is like the 6th video of the last almost 24 hours, 48 hours. It's been crazy. Hit that sub button. Get free Cowboys videos each and every single day right here on the channel. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV for even more videos. All right, players cut, by the way, for the Dallas Cowboys. 2 of them. Andrew Booth, released by the organization, along with Zion Childress. Both of them are going to head to waivers. They will have to clear waivers if the Cowboys want them back on the practice squad. Booth, of course, had made the initial 53. In fact, I was actually most surprised he got cut because it felt like there was a scenario in which the Cowboys actually started him week 1. With Trayvon Diggs banged up. Zion Childress is a nickel option. We'll talk about him more in depth in a second. But I was a little surprised Booth got cut. If and when those guys clear waivers, the Cowboys can put them back on the practice squad. Another move would be needed there because they're at 16 of the 17 they have available at this moment. But Booth is cut. And then I know many of you are upset about Zion Childress being released. He had initially made that 53-man roster after a very impressive preseason. I'll give him credit. This was not a guy that was really on my radar or someone I thought was going to push for a roster spot. Felt like he could do some safety stuff. He did that at Kentucky. He could do some nickel stuff. Obviously did that for the Cowboys. Now, because of the timing here, we're going to have to wait until Thursday evening, around 4 p.m. Eastern time, for the waivers to run again. And then we'll know for certain one way or the other if Zion Childress actually cleared waivers or not. Certainly sounds like the plan is for at least Childress to make it back to the practice squad. I would assume Andrew Booth, because he made the 53, somebody else would still have to get cut, but still some more wait and see on this front for the Cowboys, them cutting Childress and Booth. So will Childress make it through NFL waivers tomorrow and get down to the Cowboys practice squad? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. 2 players, as expected here, are heading to injured reserve. Phil Maffa and Kalen Carson. Neither of these are overly expensive. We talked about that being the initial plan for the Cowboys, but you had to carry them through roster cuts, keep them on there until that 4 p.m. Eastern window. Then they can go on IR after that. So Maffa, Carson heading to IR, taking their spots on the 53-man roster, C.J. Goodwin and Hakeem Adedayo. Both of those players had been the expectation. There's been some reporting buzz of, hey, maybe Goodwin ends up on the practice squad, but he's on the 53. He is inevitable. It's funny how that always ends up happening. Goodwin on the Cowboys roster in some capacity and bouncing around with special teams core on that front. Offensive line now wise, Adedayo, he could be active on game day. Both those guys were vested veterans, therefore they did not have to go through waivers. So you were playing the numbers game on both of them in the end. So Cowboys now up to 10 active offensive linemen. Tyler Guyton obviously still a bit nicked up. Robert Jones on the injured reserve list for the entirety of the season. Today's show is made possible by Chubbies. And Chubbies is the ultimate football apparel brand, so much so they created their own fantasy football league. George Kittle, Ian Rapport, and others have come together to assemble the Chubbies League on NFL Fantasy. Each week, the top 5 scorers will win a chance at a Chubbies polo shirts combo with their team's logo. The grand champion gets the chance at the ultimate fan experience, a 5-city, 5-stadium NFL game tour with a +1. While the fantasy flop faces a hilarious and unforgettable punishment only Chubbies could pull off. Head to chubbieshorts.com/thechubbiesleague to learn more and have some fun. Get ready for the most outrageous fantasy football season of your life. And for a limited time, our friends at Chubbies are giving you $10 off with promo code CHATSPORTS at chubbieshorts.com/chatsports. That's $10 off your order with the promo code CHATSPORTS. And it does include the NFL collection like the polo I am wearing today. Support our show and tell them we sent you. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Let's go through the Cowboys practice squad. We know 16 of the potential names Will Grier is first up here. We will go by position. Just think it's easier to kind of keep things tracked that way. No surprise on this front. Another vested veteran did not have to go through waivers, so Grier clears, ends up on the practice squad. He will be quarterback 3. Of note, you don't get the extra freebie on the game day roster if you're not on the active roster, so expect Grier to stay on the practice squad unless he's the quarterback 2, which would be a bit of an interesting development on that front. How about Malik Davis making the Cowboys practice squad? This is the only running back on the Cowboys practice squad. Deuce Vaughn not on it. I think there are a couple names we'll discuss here later on that I wonder if they picked to go somewhere else. It wouldn't be a huge shock on that front, but Davis, who signed at the last second before the game and played pretty well, earning his way back onto the Cowboys practice squad for getting cut after the draft. So very fun story there for Davis. As I told you was going to happen, Traeshon Holden also cleared waivers, and he made it back to the Cowboys practice squad. I never really thought there was any threat of him getting claimed off of waivers. This is the best case outcome now for the Cowboys. He gets to sit and learn and develop and grow and potentially push for an active roster spot next year. So very glad to see Holden back with the Dallas Cowboys. Jalen Brooks, I honestly had a better shot of getting claimed, not because he's a better receiver, but he does special teams. Holden to do that, and your receiver 5 kind of has to do that in this day of age. So Brooks does make it back down to the practice squad. Potential for some game day call-ups because of that special teams value there. I think practice squad is good for him. I think this is the right play. Jalen Cropper sticks around again as well. I don't know if the Cowboys need 3, but hey, you know what? I'm not going to complain as they just run the gang back together on that front. Additional wide receiver depth and some return breaking case of emergency elements as well. Look, I assume most of you are going to answer Traeshon Holden for this question. But if not, even better. Who is your favorite practice squad signing by the Dallas Cowboys? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Tight end time. Princeton Fant, was a bit worried about him because he's played NFL games. Same way I was worried about Tyrus Wheat getting claimed. At least thought he could get claimed. I'm not crying over losing Tyrus Wheat. But Princeton Fant back again. He was a game day call-up a couple times. One to monitor for week 1, given the banged-upness of Brevin Spann-Ford and Luke Schoonmaker at this moment. Rivaldo Fairweather also back to the Cowboys practice squad, or I should say on the Cowboys practice squad. It's his first time there. I thought he played pretty well in the preseason. I thought he was better than Schoonmaker at times. Low bar, obviously, but glad Fairweather cleared. He is on it along with Princeton Fant. Offensive line time now. Saahdiq Charles on the practice squad. Again, a vested veteran, so not terribly shocked this was the path the Cowboys chose to pursue. He was retired. This time last year, he was set to start for the Titans and then called it quits and said to not come back. So Saahdiq Charles on that practice squad. So too is Geron Christian, the offensive lineman. I'm a little surprised he made it. I didn't think he played that great, but you kind of got a lot of your other offensive linemen on the team already, so thought you could have maybe gone in a different direction, but Christian is there as another extra offensive lineman. Defensive tackle Earnest Brown IV on the practice squad as well. There was that 30-minute window where it seemed like Cowboys were going to cut Perrion Winfrey, and then Earnest Brown was going to be on the active roster, which I didn't think anything made sense there. That would have been really weird to me. He was always going to clear waivers. Not sure he's actually 6'5", 300 pounds. He's kind of fluctuated his weight around a little bit, but he's on your practice squad. Buddy Johnson, who played a little bit last year for the Cowboys on special teams predominantly. 8 tackles in total there. Buddy Johnson back again. Former Steeler, former A&M draft pick. He's got a chance to be the occasional game day call-up because of special teams value. I'm glad Justin Barron made it down to the practice squad. That was one of the higher investments the Cowboys made among their undrafted free agents. Missed the game, kind of put him behind the 8 ball a little bit with an injury. Good name to have, though, is a stash on the practice squad because, again, just like Buddy Johnson, can help on teams. I think there's some stuff to develop there as well. Kemon Hall, once again. He was, I think, in the bubble for that final spot against him and Zion Childress, and then Cowboys picked Childress for today and then cut Childress in the end. I am very curious how the active game day roster for week 1 looks at corner. They are super banged up there, and they've got 2 new guys they just signed. So I do think there is a chance that Hall is a potential game day call-up as well for week 1. I'll be honest, I didn't think Robert Rochell played that great in the preseason. There is special teams value. I get that. I wonder, and this is speculation, if we get 24 hours from now today when you're filming this, a little after 5 p.m. Eastern, I wonder if Robert Rochell gets cut and Andrew Booth gets signed. If they add Booth and Childress and release Rochell, that puts you at 17 in the end. All right, number 15, Alijah Clark, the safety. Again, a heavy investment player for the Cowboys, relatively speaking, among their undrafted free agents. Glad he is back. Going to be a lot of turnover, I suspect, in the free agency room next year based on the contracts. Certainly a potential roster spot coming next year for Clark if he can keep growing and improving. And then the lone outside the organization player picked up here. Adedayo Odeleye. That is the former Ravens, Texans defensive end, good size, 6'5", 271. He is originally from Nigeria and then grew up in England. I almost said in British, which is not right, obviously. That's what he speaks, which is also not wrong, but also is right, so it's funny. Anyway, he is an international player pathway program eligible option. So this actually is essentially the freebie. He takes the spot of Denzel Daxon. Each NFL team gets up to one. So Odeleye joins the Cowboys roster as the International Player Pathway Program piece they have on the roster this year. So in total, that is 16 of the 17 spots. Again, they reportedly want both of Andrew Booth and Zion Childress. So movement is coming here, and it might not be one, it might be two, but we'll see who ends up getting claimed on waivers tomorrow. So that last spot, or if you want to go get somebody else who's unclaimed right now, who else do you want the Cowboys to add to the Cowboys practice squad? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Some notable players who are not on the practice squad. Deuce Vaughn did not make it. Haven't seen reporting on where he's going next. We will see if he gets another spot somewhere else or if he wanted to leave. That's certainly possible for all of these guys. John Stevens Jr., look, he was a borderline active roster player before he got hurt 2 years ago. He got passed by others. Draft pick Tommy Akingbesote is not on the roster. Looks like he's going to go elsewhere just like Justin Rogers did. But it was like your worst defensive lineman this year, so that's how it goes. And then Izzy Mukuamu, and I do wonder if he's looking for a different spot. I think he is worthy of a 53-man spot somewhere. He's obviously not going to get one right now, I don't think. But I wonder if he's looking for a fresh start somewhere else.